this photo right here that some of you may have seen before. It is even on a Rage Against the Machine album cover. This is a monk who in 1962 himself on fire to protest South Vietnam, the persecution against the Buddhist religion. You look at that picture and you're like, how could this guy, he sat there, he didn't scream, he didn't yell, he didn't say a thing, he just allowed himself to burn and slowly pass. He was able to do that through years of dedicated mindfulness and meditation. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. We don't have to, hopefully we don't have to try and survive through burning ourselves, but to be able to survive through all the stressors in life, we can choose to take control of our minds and bodies and how we react to those. With it being Suicide Awareness Month and a lot of kids going off to college as well, I want to share techniques that will, I know for sure, reduce suicide and prepare all these young youth going out into the world starting college. Talk about what's happening in the brain, and when you understand what is happening in the brain, you know what you can do to combat against it. Look at this chart, I really like it. I got it from Mindful Schools. So look at the academic benefits. Doing mindfulness, it reduces the stress prior to an exam. It gives you increased social awareness, improves the climate for learning, and it improves your grades and test scores, and improves your participation. And look at the health benefits as well. It's going to improve your sleep, hyperactivity, reduce anxiety and stress, enhance your immune functions, and enhance feelings of well-being. And overall benefits, increase social awareness, increase focus, self-control, increase resilience and compassion, And this is really important now as we look on social media. Mindfulness is going to help you be kinder to those on social media. It's going to help you not go straight after the negative and begin to argue. It's going to help you not post things on social media that are wrong and share fake news and things like that. Here's another chart I like from Mindful Schools. Now, so look, mindfulness is going to help you attend, strengthen the mental muscle for bringing focus back to where it wants to be. Now, this is really going to help you at school. Emotionally regulate. It's going to allow us to observe our emotions and recognize them and not allow them to control our thoughts. It's going to calm us down. It's going to help us adapt to different environments, help us be compassionate, and put ourselves in other people's shoes, develop resiliency. And what are some situations where you would have to use this? And I think the one you'll use most often is the emotional regulate. There's something called emotional intelligence that everyone is lacking. You can see it daily on social media. 90% of social media, you can see this. People are attacking everyone. They are highlighting the negative. They let their bias control their behavior on social media, and that is causing stress to the body, and they don't realize that it's harming them. And then be compassionate. Look in the description of this. I have a link to a podcast that talks about how you should be kind to everyone. When you're being kind to people, your body's going to reward you. Dopamine is being released, and you're feeling good about it. And overall, you're making someone else feel good, and you're making yourself feel good. Everyone should be doing mindfulness, and there's a lot of benefits for it. So what is mindfulness? So live in the now, put your focus on one data point, one variable, and prevent anything else from entering your mind. And as you do it, it's extremely difficult. My mind is wandering all over, and I feel like if I'm not doing two things at once, I'm wasting. So it was always hard for me, especially with a large family, trying to find a spot where you're by yourself. But then I realized there's a lot of techniques to do mindfulness and finding the best way that mindfulness works for you. And here's a couple examples from a website I like called positivepsychology.com. And you do a body scan where you're just focusing on different parts of your body. There's mindful seeing where you're looking at things and just focus on aspects. I've done this where I'm just sitting out driving and you're trying to find all of the certain letters on different license plates while you're watching the road, of course. Listening, just focus on different sounds that you hear. Mindful breathing, watch yourself breathing and things like that. And then the senses, just go through the different senses. It's all about being able to put your mind, heart, and soul on focusing on one little aspect. In the beginning, I thought I needed to have apps or videos or someone directing me to do mindfulness, but you can do it anywhere. There's different techniques. I found that if I'm out in nature and I have a tree limb and it's full of leaves, I just slowly focus on taking each leaf off and only focus on that. You could be in a room and all of a sudden you start feeling stressed and look up at the tiles. I'm only going to count the tiles, or I'm going to investigate the tiles. I'm really going to look at these tiles. Just focus on things. Or anywhere you're at, just sit there and start to just thinking about all the sounds and different aspects. You can do it anywhere. That act of doing it is going to be healthy for you. So I'll tell you one thing, and this is the biggest thing that's going to help. with suicide as well. And it greatly helped me with mindfulness. When I really understood what was happening in the brain when I was conducting mindfulness, I began to do mindfulness and understand it. I could also do a mindfulness meditation of thinking about what's happening in the brain and understanding what's happening in the head during mindfulness or during a stressful response really, accelerated my ability to combat against the stress. And that's why I think that we really need to focus on what's happening in the brain when we're trying to stop the numbers of suicide. But I was looking up the data. So I looked up that data back from 1995 till now. And then I was seeing what are some of the variables that had occurred during those times. And some main points I realized, because if you look at, there's a steady climb of suicide. And we're not winning the battle against suicide. And I was looking at this, I was like, well, what are these variables that are influencing it? Internet exposure to how society thinks that things should be. And there was more things to influence your mind on what is right, and then you would compare yourself to others, and that would cause a large amount of stress. So did you know that there's more suicide areas with more wealth? As you have more access to things that you do not need for basic survival. And when you begin to indulge too much in things that you do not need for basic survival, your mind is rewired to think that that is what is needed for survival, and it develops an addiction. Because your body's not going to die without it, but your mind thinks it is, then your stress goes up. And economics has a great impact. The time when there's been recessions, when there's been economic difficulties, suicides have gone up as well. Let's talk about what's happening inside the brain during a response to stress, and then we'll go into detail what's happening in the brain when someone has a suicidal ideation. What happens is, through the eyes, through any of the senses, you receive stimuli that go into the brain, and a stressful response is initiated. A stressful response can occur from a large amount of things. It could be either, hey, someone's going to shoot me, I better run, or I saw something I don't like. That could be a bias. You will be triggered with stress. And so any stimuli goes into the prefrontal cortex is processed. And so here in the center where you have the caudate nucleus and there's the amygdala is going to determine if there should be a stress response. The amygdala, and I like this brain model too, it's a little bigger, you can see it, the amygdala right in there. Its sole purpose is to motivate you. Its purpose is to motivate you to live. And that's why we have it in there. It's there to help motivate us to run away from danger. It's there to help us go get water, go get food. It's there to help us survive. When you are reacting negatively on social media, it's firing up and you're actually causing damage to your body when you don't realize it. So what happens in the stress response, the central nervous system kicks in, and the sympathetic nervous system is firing, and it starts to send signals, and neurotransmitters are released, sends these hormones to different parts of the body that it feels needs support during this fight or flight response. When a stress response occurs, this stuff actually could hurt your body if it happens too much. And so through mindfulness, you can prevent unnecessary stress responses. Let's talk about something crazy and interesting, what happens inside the brain of someone that's committing suicide. And one thing that's very interesting is they did multiple post-mortem tests on the brains of people that committed suicide. And what they have found out, and then they've done studies of other people with suicidal ideations that had suicidal thoughts, the amygdala is firing up, and the amygdala is convincing the front part, it's convincing the prefrontal cortex where you can make accurate choices. It's convincing it to kill himself. It's convincing it that that's the best way. And so a lot of times, in the past, you wonder, how could this person kill themselves? Why would they do that? Well, they lost the will to the amygdala. The amygdala's piled so much on them and convinced them to kill themselves. And that's why suicide is so difficult. And the beauty of it is with mindfulness, and they've shown through studies that if you do a month of mindfulness of 5 minutes a day, the prefrontal cortex will get stronger, the amygdala actually shrinks, and the pathways that connect the two get weaker. And so what that means is if you're doing mindfulness, is going to make you stronger to combat against all the trials that are entering life. It's going to combat against suicide and things like that. Mindfulness is going to help if you're struggling with addiction as well. Because the whole reason why addiction started is because, remember, the amygdala's purpose is to motivate us to seek after things that will help us survive. And when we're addicted to something, we've now tricked our brain to think that we have to have that to survive. And so through mindfulness, you are, again, weakening the amygdala's response and strengthening the prefrontal cortex, and that'll help you with addiction. So I challenge you right now, do mindfulness every day, and the more you hate it, the more you need to do it. And why would you not want to do it? Why would you not want to be able to survive the influences all over, be happier in life?